Good afternoon, my beautiful babes and babettes. I am your resident active advocate, and today I would like to start with the gents, actually, in New Moon, and talk to you about Edward issues. The reason why I'm starting with this one is because it's basically the low hanging fruit of the series, or of this book in the series. This is also my favorite book in the series. I use this as a very relative term, okay? But this is my favorite book in the series because Edward's not in most of it. Yay! This makes me a happy me because he is not good. He is not a good thing. That is not a good thing that Edward is, okay? Okay, so for context, bit of a summary here. At the very beginning of the movie slash book, Edward takes Bella to his family's house for her birthday party. Bella does not like parties, okay? Bella is not the kind of person who seeks individual attention to any extent whatsoever. I think that has more to do with her lack of self-confidence than with anything else, but some people are just introverted, right? Don't really like the spotlight on them, and that's fine. But when it comes to her going to their house, you're kind of walking a very, very thin line there because she is surrounded, in that case, by vampires. One of whom is a very young vampire by their standard, and I mean a few hundred years kind of young. But he has a difficult time controlling his thirst for blood around humans, of course. Um, Ordinarily, the Cullens hunt animals to satiate their thirst rather than hunting humans. But Jasper, this particular vamp, he has a bit of a track record for not being good around human blood. So basically, what Edward is doing, and what Alice, who is my favorite of the Cullens, but we'll get to her, what Alice insists on doing is bringing Bella over to the house to celebrate her birthday. And the plot hits the fan because Bella gets a paper cut, which bleeds just a little tiny bit, and Jasper loses his mind and immediately goes into hunter mode and tries to hurt Bella. Couple of problems ensue, and sorry for the racket, I can't control that if you can hear it. I don't know what they're doing out there. But a couple of problems ensue, and Edward ends up pushing Bella into a table that is loaded with glass because apparently he can't control his strength, and apparently his speed is also beyond his control. In order to protect Bella, he shoves her much harder than he actually needs to out of Jasper's line of attack, and then goes on the offensive himself to defend Bella against Jasper. Um, Few problems here. Edward is several hundred years old by this point and can control his strength and can control his speed. You have seen him do this literally the entire time you have known this character because he can't go super mode around humans or else he's going to blow his whole family's cover. He's not thinking, and I don't understand why. He should have the wherewithal to be able not only to control himself but to control his adopted brother. So it occurs to Edward after this incident because Carlisle, his adopted father, is a doctor, by the way, and he can control his thirst around blood, and he's had a good 400 years of practice, but he stitches Bella up and sends her home. And her usual excuse to Charlie, the one that she always gives, is, "Oh, I tripped because I'm such a klutz," you know. But it occurs to Edward to think, maybe she's not safe around me, right? Which is a thing that should have occurred to you before you pursued any kind of relationship with this girl, okay? I know you don't have the strength to stay away from her because her blood is tempting for you. If she's that tempting, you should stay away. It's like, oh, forgive the analogy. This is a really bad analogy, but it's like putting a chronic smoker into a room full of the best brands of cigarettes in the world and giving them a lighter and saying, now I'm going to be back tomorrow morning, and if you've smoked a single cigarette, I'm going to, I don't know, throw you in jail or whatever. Okay, bad analogy. You can't keep putting yourself in this situation because you're also putting her in danger. And this is kind of the key point I have against Edward. He is so selfish and so needy that he will actively put her in danger in order to keep himself happy. Problem is, Bella's self-esteem is low enough that she allows him to do this, and she enjoys him doing this. So when it occurs to Edward to say to her, I'm no good for you, and I will be leaving now, and you will never see me again, I have a problem with this because A, he should have done it earlier. He really should have done. He never should have engaged in this relationship to begin with. B, I have a problem with this because the manner in which he does it is so excruciatingly unnecessary. He flat out tells her, you are no good for me. You are not good enough for me. I don't know whether he is aware of her issues with self-esteem or whether he is fully aware and playing into them as hard as he possibly can. All right? What kind of makes me think that he may be blissfully unaware of it is that, yes, he does keep coming back and keeps feeding her addiction to him. And he is also codependent with her. Okay? He relies on her to keep himself feeling whole, feeling happy, feeling well. Okay? So he also, I think, has very, very low self-esteem. And even though he is over 100 years old, apparently he's never had time to work on this. Right? So Edward leaves. And I'm really happy about this, but the way in which he does it, as I say, is so incredibly unnecessary. And he leaves her alone in the woods. You're already aware that this girl is a magnet for bad luck, right? You're already aware that she's a total klutz. You could at least bring her home first. So unfortunately, and content warning here, because we're getting into the emotional neglect / emotional abuse side of things here. So Edward does that, and then he immediately runs away from her. She is not fast enough to keep up with his super speed, even though she tries. And she does get herself lost in the woods. But the problem is, once it gets dark and she can no longer find the path, she just feels that she's lost everything, and she immediately goes emotionally catatonic. I received this book, or bought this book for myself, I can't remember, when I was in my mid-teen years. And what subsequently happens is that Bella is brought home by other friends who find her in the woods, and I'll get to them, okay? I will especially be getting to them in tomorrow's video, because they're the werewolves. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there are werewolves. They're not actually werewolves, they're shapeshifters in this story, but she is found by the leader of the shapeshifters, his name is Sam, and brought home. And when I first read this book in my mid-teens, there are 3 pages in this book that just show the names of the months, okay? First page, October. Second page, November. Third page, December, okay? That's all they show. In the movie, this is done very well, in a sense, because it is a panning shot. So the camera is spinning around Bella and looking at her room in which nothing has changed, and looking out her window at the seasons changing as the months pan along. And there's this very, very sad song playing in the background, but she's just sitting in a chair in her room looking out the window. And in the movie, she wears the same clothes that she went into the forest with. But aside from that little editing mistake, I think that that scene was done very well because her face is just dead. You know, her entire aspect is just dead. And it shows those 3 timestamps: October, November, December. And it is implied in both the book and the movie that nothing is there inside her mind, inside her heart. Nothing is happening. She is physically engaging, and I'll get into this in the book. She is physically engaging with the world. She is not mentally or emotionally there. Okay? In the movie, Charlie, her father, eventually says to her, I don't like the way you are behaving. This is not healthy. You have to let go. In the book, it's very similar, but he specifically recommends that she spend time with Jacob Black. We'll get to that, but more so tomorrow. But she does not really wake up emotionally until she spends time with Jacob. And this I put 100% on Edward, not on Bella. Bella, as I keep saying, her self-esteem is so low that she cannot function without this relationship to which she clings, okay? She, as I have also said in a past video, she is not herself a character. She is a stand-in, not only for the author, but also for the intended audience, which is preteen to teen, cisgender, heteronormative, heterosexual, probably white women or girls, okay? That's the intended audience for this book. And the message that those 3 timestamps are sending to young girls, I think, and my sister said this to me too when I pointed this out in the book to her. This is the message that is being sent, that you as a lone girl are not going to be functional and should not be functional without a relationship to support you. I have really, really big problems with this. And as I say, I put this 100% on Edward. This is no longer emotional abuse. This is emotional neglect. So you're going from actively bad to passively bad. He completely disappears. And along with him, he takes all the stuff he ever gave her, by the way. I might add this. This is in the book, not in the movie. But he takes everything that he had ever given her in terms of presents and stuff, and even says to her, you know, like, you will never see me again. And the implication is that he wants to wipe out every trace that he had ever been there in order for her to theoretically move on easily, you know, more quickly than she otherwise would, because he knows that he is doing a terrible, heartless thing, but he doesn't have the courage to stay with her, to stick it out, and to fix the problem that he started to begin with. The whole thing with Jasper, I blame Edward for that too. You are bringing this girl into the lion's den, and without any safety precautions whatsoever in place. That and the fact that, by the way, Alice, let's get back to her. Alice can see the future, okay? That is one of her gifts as a vampire. You know how Edward can read minds. In the same manner, Alice can see the future. And she didn't see this coming. And she didn't warn Edward. And she didn't stop herself from saying, Bella needs a birthday party. I like Alice, okay? I think she's probably the most compelling character in this book. But she really dropped the ball hard on that one. I've heard it joked, and this is absolutely true. Alice can see the future when it's convenient to the plot, right? This book is an interesting case study because it lacks Edward, and I love that, but At the same time, and I'll get into this more tomorrow, it is also a great example of how codependency develops on a wider scale. Because in this book, it's not just Bella and it's not just Edward, it's also her new, pardon me, boy toy, because she plays around with him like crazy, Jacob. And as I keep saying, we'll be getting to him tomorrow because there are big problems there. Um, Not the least of which is cultural appropriation, I might add. But let's fast forward to the end of the book slash movie. Um, Edward comes back into the picture because what's been going on throughout both media is that Bella starts having hallucinations, literal hallucinations of Edward's presence when she puts herself into a stupid amount of danger. And she does this with Jacob, with motorbikes. She does this by, and this is the impetus for the end of the story, she does this with cliff diving. Theoretically she can swim, right? But she bashes her head on the way down, and she has to get herself saved. But the problem is, again, when it's convenient to the plot, Alice cannot see the future with werewolves in the picture. And Jacob is the one to rescue Bella from the water. All right. He is gone through the werewolf transformation at this point. And like, I mean, it has the capability to turn into a wolf at this point. Okay. But Alice sees Bella jump, but does not see her come out of the water, so she believes that Bella has chosen to end her own life. Alice comes back to Forks and finds that Bella is alive and goes, "What the hell? My vision told me that you were dead." And I want to be very, very clear here. If you are in the mentality of suicide due to any cause whatsoever, due to a relationship, due to anything, okay, please seek help. And I cannot dictate other people's behavior, but it's so much safer than you think it is to open up to other people, safer for them and safer for you, because you will be keeping yourself out of harm's way. You will also be keeping other people from feeling far greater emotional pain than they would feel if you were out of their life. I want to make it perfectly, perfectly clear to anyone who sees this. Your presence in this world is absolutely essential. Otherwise, you would not be here. And everything, everything in your life would be 100% different were you not there. Okay? I just want to make my stance on this very clear. And mental health is a very serious issue that I do not take lightly. I think this book takes it far more lightly than any piece of media has the right to do. Bella just jumps off a cliff in order to see Edward, and I think that that is wrong. I think that that is extraordinarily unhealthy. Like, this is, I unhealthy is the understatement of the century here, okay? So when Alice has the vision of Bella jumping off the cliff, um, what happens is that Edward hears word of it and he chooses to go to Italy, where basically the vampire royalty live. They're called the Volturi. And he knows that if he goes to the Volturi and asks for them to kill him, it's a surefire way that he's going to die, because it's very difficult to kill a vampire. There is one way that is made clear in further installments of the series, and I'll address that when the time comes. But basically, he goes to the Volturi and says to them, end my life, please. I don't want to live anymore. He doesn't tell them why, but they refuse because he has the gift of reading minds. And the Volturi are a power hungry association that actually strive to gain vampires with gifts into their ranks. And Edward can read minds from a distance. This is a gift that they don't have in their arsenal yet. All right. So they say, no, we want to keep you alive. So instead, Edward goes to show off his glittery in the sun body to humans in the square around Volterra. I don't know if this city actually exists in real life. I didn't look that up, but that is where the Volturi base is situated in Italy. And before he is able to do this, however, Alice and Bella make it to Italy just in time to save his life. Because the thing is, if, according to Volturi law, if a vampire shows humans that they are a vampire and like makes humans aware of the existence of vampires in the world, that vampire is either to be put to death, or the human or humans to whom they have made themselves known must themselves become vampires. All right. So Bella makes it to Italy just in time to save Edward's life, and they are reunited at last. Hooray! Blah blah blah. Whatever. Oh my god, I hate him so much. He is not a good person because he says to her in both the book and the movie, he says to her, and this is just classic disgusting abusive behavior, how could you possibly believe that I did not want you? You believed me so easily. And this is another reason, by the way, why I think he is so blissfully unaware of her lack of self-esteem. He assumes that she would not believe him and she would try to stop him. It's implied, therefore, that he wanted her to try and stop him from leaving, but when she doesn't, because to her, in her mind, it makes sense for him not to love her because she's just an average human, right? And what is she next to him? He takes that information and literally runs. He runs away from her like the coward that he is because he can't control his own thirst. He's worried about what his brothers or his sisters or any member of his family will do to her. And I think that he is a coward. I do not like him. He is not only a coward, but he is emotionally manipulative. You believed me so easily. How could you let me go so easily? It is not your place to admonish this girl, you selfish jerk. You are the one, and you are well aware of this. You are the one with the power in this relationship, and you use that power to every advantage you can squeeze out of it. This story is disgusting. I am disgusted by these books. I truly do not like them. And I think that it's very important for anyone going into this series to be aware of the screaming off the page problems with these books, because there are big problems. And I don't want younger girls, especially, to be basing their idea of what romance is or should be off of what they read in these rags. All right? They're horrible things for self esteem, for healthy relationships. They flat out teach abusive behavior as romantic. It's disgusting. I don't like it. And not to tell anyone what to think, but I don't think other people should like this stuff either. They're not good books. Just want to say that until the cows come home. Moo. Okay, so end of the book. They're reunited, and Bella, having run off without a word to her father to Italy for 3 days, is grounded for the rest of her life, says Charlie, and I love that. Love that about him. He's a great character, actually, until later. We'll get to that. But, she is forbidden from seeing Edward, which, yay. But specifically, Charlie forbids Edward from coming in through the door. Edward does the classic high schooler move and comes in through the window instead. And wow, you're 100 and something years old and you're being that much of a literalist? Are you kidding me? So it also goes to show how very clingy Edward is with Bella, because he is not taking her father's 100% legitimate and very concerned about his daughter, Authority, into account here at all. Oh my gosh. There are just so many things to address. I will address the Edward and Jacob stuff later. I believe I'm going to be doing that video tomorrow and then save Bella for last because I'd like to do the boys first and get them out of the way. This is where the love triangle starts, and I hate love triangles. In my own book, no love triangles, no love triangles. It's a bad plot device. It really is, I think. It's quite weak. Authors, I think, can do better than that. So yeah, that's Edward. Whoopee. Thumbs up that he was gone for most of this. I got to fast forward through so much of the plot to specifically look for Edward issues, and it was great. I loved it. But tomorrow I will be talking to y'all about Jacob. This is a much bigger problem, and there are also real world consequences to the portrayal of Indigenous people in these books. This is gonna get worse, by the way, but tomorrow the cringe begins. It's gonna be fun for the whole family, especially me. Schadenfreude, woohoo, look it up. It means happiness at the misfortune of others, which is what I bet you're all feeling for me right now. Whoopee. All right, so thank you for your lovely attention and participation, and I will see you all tomorrow to talk about Mr. Jacob Black. All right, mwah. Bye.